everyone, Sinix here, and I wanted to lay the foundation for a new video series I'm calling ArtCraft. And this video series is basically going to be what it sounds like, arts and crafts, but with more of a focus on doing things that will make the world around you a more interesting and whimsical place. So things that are inspired more by like street art and installation art, and just those types of creative projects that just make the world seem more fun. So for this first episode of ArtCraft, I'm going to show you guys how to make a pixelator. And what is a pixelator? Well, I think it was first created by a street artist named Jason Eppink, and I'm not sure if it was invented by him or not, but he's definitely the person that made it famous. He put them around, I think it was New York City, on like the billboards that were up around the city. They had a lot of like obnoxious video billboards, and he went around and put these things he called pixelators up on them and instantly turned them into street art and into something more whimsical and fun. So that's kind of what I like about it, and that's kind of what we're going to do. Except we're just going to do it for like our monitor or TV at home. Something simple that we all have and we can all mess around with. So we're going to make our rooms a little more interesting. So, first off, I did try making one of these a couple years ago. The idea of the pixelator has definitely been around for at least 5 or 6 years, if not longer. So I made one for my old CRT monitor, and it was real flimsy. It wasn't great. It was, really rough around the edges, but it was, kind of like a prototype. The first time you make something, it's always a bit of a mess. I didn't know like what materials to use, and I had to experiment around a bit. And I'll show you a video of what that looks like up against my current monitor. You can see I just kind of have it up against a painting, one of the YouTube videos. I think this was the Orbital Shipyard Design Lab. And you can see the effect it kind of has where it tries to turn everything into just a very blocky kind of pixel looking shapes. And it kind of has this very, I don't know, tangible feel to it. It feels less digital, and it feels like the pixels are kind of, something that exists more so in your world rather than the computer world. But anyway, so we're going to try to make a new one, and we're going to try to make a better one. So first of all, let me just go over, kind of the core parts that we're going to need. It's basically a box or like a frame. I'll just draw one out right here like this. There we go. So we're going to have a frame, and I decided that I'm going to make this out of something more sturdy because my prototype for the old CRT monitor, it was just made of paper like all around the edges and everywhere. So it was real flimsy. It would wobble around, the sides. It didn't really have any stability, and it was hard to kind of keep it looking decent. So we're going to try to make this out of something more solid, and I'll probably use foam board. And then inside, we're just going to have a grid of paper or poster board. So there'll be like a square grid. And this whole thing, I want it to be kind of like cubes. So each one of these openings should be somewhat like a cube. So we have to do a little bit of math to figure this out. Let's see. It seems that this standard display I have is roughly 21.5, I think, inches by, I think it's 11 or 12. I think it's 11.5. But basically, I already did the math and kind of figured it out. And it looks like the best way to do things is going to be to have a column of 5 cubes and then a row across of 9 cubes. So that basically should be enough to fit this, 16 by 9 standard widescreen, monitor. It's close to 16 by 9, 9 by 5. It's about as close as you could get because you don't want your squares to be way too small. I mean, you can make them really tiny, but I like them to be, kind of big. So 9 by 5 is definitely enough. So we're going to go 9 by 5. And it looks like doing some basic math that each cube is going to be about 2.2 inches in height, width and length. So, all around just a 2.2 inch cube in each of the openings. So anyway, there's one thing I didn't really mention, and that's the filter that goes on top of this, grid. And that is going to be a special material called Diffusion Gel. Now you can try using other kind of homemade or just, stuff you have lying around, like maybe wax paper or tissue paper. That might work. I'm not really sure. I haven't really tried those ghetto solutions, but it's very possible that they could give you good results. But I'm just going to use something that's slightly more made for this type of stuff, and it's called Diffusion Gel. It's basically used for covering lights in like cinematography to kind of diffuse the light. So you want the densest diffuser you can get. So I tried a couple in the past, and the one I liked the most was called Roscoe Cinegel. That's this really long name. Roscoe Cinegel Tough Rolex, and the number was 3000. So it's got this super long name, and you could find this on Amazon.com, and it's like $7 for a sheet. So here you can see all of the supplies that I got in preparation for this project, along with all the tools I planned on using to construct this thing. And apparently there's even a foot thrown in there for all you Quentin Tarantino-esque foot fetishists. But I have the Cinegel, and it is in this tube. And then I got a foam board from Walmart, and along with some poster boards. And altogether, this just cost me $10. So the total cost of our project here is going to be $10. And that's mainly the $7 for the diffusion gel, and then $2 for a foam board, and $1 for a poster board. So that's all we need, and this is going to be our $10 project. And it's nice to kind of have this monetization thing going on in my videos, because I feel like this gives me at least a little tiny budget to do stupid projects and try different things. So that's kind of fun. And I'll make a little tweet about how much money I make each month from having little ads on my videos, because I know people are curious about, what kind of money you can make from just doing, at least casual YouTube videos, not like professional stuff. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. The first thing I did was made the frame with the foam board. So I cut the foam board and laid it out, and I had to figure out kind of how to connect the corners of my foam board. So I decided to go with something like a little, jointed piece thing. Not quite a dovetail joint, but I certainly learned about all that stuff from watching the New Yankee Workshop when I was a kid on Sunday mornings, because that was always my favorite thing to watch, all those like carpentry shows like This Old House and New Yankee Workshop. So this is not quite a dovetail joint, but it's the closest I'm going to get with my foam board. And this actually creates a pretty strong joint, and then I just went over it with some masking tape, and it actually holds up quite well. So I'm pretty happy with the frame, and amazingly enough, it actually fits my monitor screen perfectly, so that I can just like kind of press it into the little kind of quarter-inch size divot that the screen has with its border and its frame, and it will actually stay in that little quarter-inch divot all by itself. So that works out surprisingly well, and I don't have to figure out a way to attach it to my screen. I can just kind of pop it on, which is very lucky. So anyway, the next step is to create the grid. So to do that, I just kind of cut all these, proper pieces of size. Obviously, I leave the ends blank because that's just going to be where the foam board is. So I just kind of made this grid here, and then I had to cut out little notches. I cut like 50% of the way through both sides. Well, of one side of both of them, and then obviously I just kind of put them together. So you have like a little groove into another groove, and it works out very nicely, and you get a grid pattern that's pretty solid. Obviously, you can't just like cut them with scissors just outright. If you just use, basic scissors and one cut, you're just gonna get a thin little cut in the poster board, and you won't be able to really cram the other poster board in there. So you actually have to like cut it twice, or you can saw it or do something like that, but you need to have at least a small opening in your poster board that's in the width of your poster board. I'm saying this sounds very confusing, but hopefully it makes some sense. So you have to have like a little opening, otherwise your paper will kind of buckle when you try to like cram it in because it'll be too like squeezed together. So just open up those openings a little tiny bit, and it should look like a grid. This was actually one of the things I learned when I did my prototype because I just kind of did simple little slits with the scissors, and it comes off like very kind of wobbly and bent when you try to cram all the pieces together in between the spaces because there's not really enough to fit in because you didn't cut anything out. So anyway, I think that's about it for the construction stuff. I put my grid into the box, and the great thing about doing it like this with this frame is that this grid is pretty much removable. I could just take it out, put in a different sized grid if I ever wanted to. I could put in a different kind of design altogether. It's important to note that you can actually kind of do anything. It doesn't have to just be a square pixel grid. You can do, like round, like cardboard tube cutouts, or you can do any kind of weird tessellation. So you can go all MC Escher on it and make like crazy tessellations, repeating shapes. You can go look up what a tessellation is if you don't know. But just like crazy stuff like that. And anyway, the last step is just to kind of secure the Sinix or the Diffusion Gel, whatever you want to call it, to the top of your frame. And there you go. You should have a nice working pixelator. And you can just put it on your screen and test it out and see what it looks like. Here it is with the Diffusion Gel, and I have the lights off so you can get a nice look of the effect it creates. And I would recommend kind of playing around with it by opening up a YouTube video of something that's very colorful and has lots of action, such as a cartoon. Cartoons are great for using your pixelator on because they have all kinds of color switching and, rapid action, and it just looks crazy. So I think I have on Motor City in the background because my friend works on that show. It's a cartoon on Disney Network, so that worked out nicely, and it creates all kinds of weird effects on my pixelator. So anyway, I think that's about it. If I did another one, I might try some crazy stuff like, doing some crazy designs on the side just for fun. Going really artsy with it. You can like print out a picture or some art and put it on the sides just to kind of make it really personal. Maybe try some wacky designs in the middle area. I've seen all kinds of different stuff. You can add little grids here and there and like break up the shapes. I know I've even heard of a guy that made a pixelator by just gluing together those little blocks from the Don't Break the Ice board game that you might have played as a little kid. And that actually worked out really well. He made it for his iPad, so he had like a mini pixelator for his iPad, just made completely out of Don't Break the Ice blocks. So there's all kinds of fun things you can try. Definitely post a picture or a video if you make your own, and it'll be fun to see. Try your own stuff and let me know how it goes. So I think that's about it for this video. I'll just close it out, playing a little more video stuff of my pixelator. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Once it's made, you can just sit back and, open up a cartoon video, turn off the volume on the video, and turn on your, whatever music. You can put on your wub wubs or your electro music or whatever you kids listen to these days. And you can sit back and have fun staring at this screen and, enjoying the visuals. So anyway, I think that's about it, and thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys found this amusing and fun.